What is good, y'all? Today, we're not actually going to be talking or playing Monster Hunter. We're going to be talking about it, which is cool. So, mostly, I think we're just going to probably go around and rate every single one, because that's what I want to do. Especially because since I want to play some of the older games, I want to have it on record what I think about everything, so I can look back and see how maybe my opinions have changed. So, so that's the idea, and that's the plan. That's what we're gonna do. Just one moment. There we go. Wanted to make sure we were streaming in the correct category. Yes, Monster Hunter today. Okay. So I don't need to go too small today, so I'll just move over here. Then we will continually shrink and grow myself over and over. There we go. Hello. So we welcome to Monster Hunter. I have died, apparently. But that's okay, because I'm here. I'm here for us. Just get up. And we can boot in to start talking about some monsters here. So let's take a look at the lists. So, move a little bit farther out of the way. The first monster of the game is Great Azuchi, and I think he's awesome. I'm not sure. I haven't tried any of the other starting monsters yet. Obviously, I haven't played any of the other games, but I think Great Azuchi is actually pretty cool. He's like a bird raptor thing. He's got two little homies that are always with him. The sickle blade tail's always cool. Honestly, is it wrong that I want to give him a 7? Because, like, he's still fun to fight, even once you're, like, past the beginning. Because, like, I think he does a decent job teaching you. But you don't... And like, you don't necessarily outgrow him. Just because he's still fun to fight. Because I love the way... Because when you hit him, he goes, like, spinning like a top. When you, like, knock him down when he's doing something. So it's... I think he's great. Might be wrong to start. Yeah, no, I'm gonna start with a 7 for Azuchi. I think he's great. It's my list. Great Baggy. This could see while Azuchi I like. It's like I don't think I like all the Raptors. I think it's just Azuchi that I like because Baggy I don't care. I think Baggy's just kind of annoying. He's not that interesting. He's just a raptor. I mean, he's got sleep, which is cool. Because, I mean, probably like a 4. 3. I'm happy to settle on a 3 for Bag. No, 4. Yes, 4. Final answer, 4. I'm gonna give Baggy a 4 out of 10. Gulyaku. I don't like this bird. This little bird raptor thing. It's cooler than like some of the other raptors, but it's nowhere close to Azuchi for me. I think it's really annoying the way that things are just bouncing, and I mean, it's cool that it takes out like different things, but it doesn't really do anything interesting. It just kind of runs around. And that's really all it does. So I don't like it. But like I think it's fine. So I'll probably go with a 4 for Kulu as well. Great Ragi. It's just another raptor. This one's poison. Not that interesting, to be honest. I'll go with a 3 for Great Ragi. It's whatever. I mean, it's cool that it's like I understand what the raptors are for. They're kind of to help introduce you to different aspects of the game. Like Azuchi is a really good wyvern ride. And then, like, it helps teach you that. It helps you learn the game. Baggy helps you with learning sleep. Kuluyaku learning sharpness and bouncing. Ragi for learning poison. And, like, I get that they're there to be, like, super easy monsters that you can do that for, but that doesn't make them interesting long-term. Because, like, Izuchi I still think is great. Even at, like, the end game where I am, and I've played all the monsters and fought everything tons of times. I mean, you can even see, so, like, down there in the corner, I've fought, you know, a few Ragi, Kulu, and Baggy, but I've fought a ton of Izuchi, because I think Izuchi's just better. So it's like, this is the way you would want to design a beginner monster, where it doesn't just fall off. Whereas, like, these raptors, they fell off. I mean, plus ratio, plus... yeah. Arzuros is fine. I don't really care one way or the other for Arzuros. He's a reasonable, like, non-dinosaur to help you, like, figure out how the, like, non-dinosaurs might fight. So, like, he's cool. He takes your honey, which is extra also cool, so I don't mind him at all. He's like a 5 out of 10. Lagombi. It's kind of just like Arzuros, but does more, I think. It, like, slides around, throws snowballs, and does, like, stuff. Oh, and it's, gotta say, the Lagombi armor, still, it's insane. I love it. Very pretty, adds a lot of fluffiness, adds, like, shape to your outfit, so. I'm a fashion hunter, by the way, so I might include some armor in the rating, depending on if the armor is, like, actually that good. See, like, I would normally rate Lagombi probably maybe a 6, where it's just, it's slightly better than Arzuros. But because of its armor, I'm just going to give it a 7. Because so as a fashion hunter, I would be super hyped to see Lagombi in the game, because I just love mixing and matching armor sets for good fashion. And Lagombi's armor is, like, very, very good for mixing and matching with all kinds of things, given its fluffiness, its bright colors. So, like, I would be extra hyped to see Lagombi in a Monster Hunter game just for the fashion reasons. So for that, I'm going to give it a 7. Volvodon. I don't like this guy. He's a great wyvern ride. He's, like, one of the best wyvern rides, surprisingly. But I don't... I don't know, I think it's pretty much the same as Arzuros for me. He's got, like, the stinky stuff, which is annoying, and then he rolls around, which is also annoying, but, like, I mean, he's fine, I guess. No. Let's also give Volvodon a 4. I'm not too psyched on Volvodon. I think he's okay, but no, okay, we'll give him a 5, actually. I think him and Arzuros are about the same level for me. I don't mind them one way or the other. Acnosomp. So this is apparently a new monster for Rise. So I guess I won't be seeing this one anywhere else. Which is too bad, because Acnosomp I think was a really, really good introductory monster. So, like, Izuchi taught you how the game works, and then Acnosomp taught you how monsters work, if that makes sense. Because, like, it's the first one that actually roars and stops you. It's the first one that has, like, very distinct patterns and can, like, 1-2 combo you if you're not using your Wyvern Falls well enough in the game. So, like, I think Agnesomp's pretty cool. I don't think it's as cool as Izuchi, or even necessarily as good of a teacher, but I think it's pretty cool. And it's, like, apparently supposed to be an umbrella, but I never got that. It just looks like a crane. So I don't know, maybe that's just the design missed on me in particular, but I'll give Agnesomp a 6. Royal Ludroth, I think it's fine. I mean, it's a water monster that just does water stuff. It's got a big sponge that you can break. And if you do, it just kind of looks very sad and makes you feel bad for killing it. So I guess as a defense mechanism, actually quite strong. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So if it makes you want to pity it, I think it's perfectly fine. fight's not overly interesting, and the design is pretty okay. I mean, for like a Leviathan and like a water monster, I think it's a-okay, nothing, no bad, no, but it's not really particularly great either. I'd give it a 5, like a 5 out of 10. And I just realized I might be being a little too stingy with my numbers, but hey, I mean, it'll help me down the line. Went to differentiate between some of the better monsters. Baroth, now this is the first monster in the game I would call a homie. I love Baroth. Because the biggest thing that got me, so I am a hammer player, meaning I play blunt weaponry primarily. And so I missed out on all of like the tail cutting, and other than just like bonking them in the head and breaking parts, this is the first time I actually got to play against a monster that like I could remove a part from, and it was the head. And this is like one of the only monsters that a blunt weapon can actually sever a part that you can carve from, which was sick. That was awesome. It was a great introduction to that. And he's just cool. He's like a little steam choo-choo train. He's just like, and then just and ramming and running that, rolling around in the mud like a dog. I think Baroth is one of the best like monsters that you fight pretty early. Like, I don't think it's quite a 9, but it's definitely at least an 8. I think Baroth's like an 8. Like an 8 out of 10. I think that's totally fair. Because this guy is wonderful. I love him. His fight's super fun. Where he just uses mud and messes with you to get out of the way of his like choo-choo trains. So like, totally great fight. Daimyo Hermitar. This guy was new with Sunbreak. So he's like the lowest level master rank monster you fight. And he's honestly a joy to fight. Both of the crabs are awesome. I think that they're, well, and again, it might be my blunt weapon bias coming in, but I think they're super, super fun. I would give Daimyo, actually, I think I'm gonna stick with what I got. So I think Daimyo is gonna be a 7 for me. I think Daimyo is a lot of fun. I think is really good. Really fun to like break his shell. Both of the crabs is a ton of fun to break their shells, their claws, punch them in the face repeatedly. They don't have roars, which was a very nice touch because a crab has no need for a roar because they don't really have lungs. It's different creatures, and it's like it's cool. I don't really like it that much, but it has a lot of interesting things going for it. Because it's like the pale skin is like a cave dweller. It has no pigment. It's got no eyeballs because it's just too dark down there in the caves. You can't see anything. It's got no hearing. That one's a little bit weirder, but totally fine. It's kind of like worm-like as far as a creature goes with its neck. So, I mean, not all worms can hear stuff, so it's pretty cool. And then the way its noodly head is so interesting. Like, I think it's just such a well-made monster is the thing. The fight is very annoying. And when you fight Kezu, it's just super annoying until you get like good earplugs or you just are good enough to like roll through the roars or parry or something. There's tons of parries in the game, so it's not bad on that regard, but man, I think I'm still gonna give it like a 7 though. I think it's a really well-made monster, both design-wise, fight-wise. Its armor is disgusting though. You won't catch me wearing no Kezu armor unless that shit is completely different from the ones I've seen so far in this game. Because, no thanks. Tetranodon, I think he is cool. Like a sumo frog platypus kappa thing. And it just kind of... It throws rocks and spits water and is a sumo man. I don't think I really like it as much as most people seem to. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, Tetranodon's one of my favorites of the new monsters, because this guy also came out in this game, in Rise. And so, like, I heard a lot of people talking about how, oh, I love him. He's wonderful. He's my new favorite. But, not really, not for me. He's just kind of fine. I'd put him at like a 6. I think he's okay. Bishatin, I this is the one that I assumed most people would actually really like, from like the ones that are considered like the new monsters. But I just haven't heard as much chatter about Bishatin. But I think he's super cool. I like the third little monkey hand. He's like an Apom or whatever from Pokemon, which is really cool. It's like a bat that like throws fruit, and it keeps fruit, and you can throw the fruit back at it, and like there's so many interesting things about the fight. And then the design is pretty okay. I can't unsee that it looks kind of like it's got big, droopy, fuzzy old woman titties. I'm sorry, I can't unsee it. But other than that, everything looks great. I mean, a bat monster is a super cool idea. Making it like a bat monkey is also very interesting. I think Bishatin's also an 8 out of 10. I think Bishatin is awesome. Absolutely great. Blood Orange Bishatin. I think it's hard to tell because... So this one, the fight is less interesting, but the design is a bit more interesting. So it's got like explosive pine cones that it can use on you, but you can't make them drop it and throw them back or anything like that. So the fight is a little bit less interesting than its original counterpart, which is unfortunate. But design-wise, it's kind of a bit cooler. Like the exploding pine cones is like an extra dimension. So I don't know. I think it's probably still about the same. Probably just still an 8. I don't think it improved on it enough to really go up, or really downgrade on anything to go down. Because, you know, it lost some, but it gained some. So, also an 8 for Bob. Pookie, I love this guy. This guy is wonderful. Excuse me. Pookie's a joy to fight. Super fun, chill, pretty easy once you know what they're doing. Great introduction to poison as well as tail cutting. Because I personally didn't know all that much about tail cutting. Again, I was a blunt weapon guy. But when I was trying to learn and figured that out, Pookie really helped me out. Because I was trying like, okay, well I have to pick up some bladed weaponry so I can learn how to cut off tails. And then in order to train myself on the new weapons, Pookie was a wonderful fight to do that. Because once you know the pattern, it's pretty easy. But it's not like super easy until you know the pattern, if that makes sense. It's not like super hard either. It's like difficult, and then it's not, and then it's fine. But I also think Pookie's design is wonderful. I think its armor is some of the cutest around, like that little hood with the goggles, and like I think Pookie's I don't think Pookie's quite an 8, so I'm gonna go with a 7 out of 10 for Pookie. Juratotis. So this guy, I don't really feel too strongly one way or the other, to be honest. He's just kind of like a big mudfish. I will tell you, I was very surprised the first time I was fighting a Juratotis, and it just stood up. I thought it was just a fish. I was like, oh, that's cool. We got like a fish monster, and then that fish has legs, and I was so surprised. Why does this fish have legs? Why can't it just be a fish? I mean, I understand, like, okay, so it can have more areas of the map it can be on, but why not just let it be a fish and let it hang out on specific areas of the map? Who cares? You know, it's only in the flooded forest, and it can only go in the watery areas. That's fine. I mean, that actually adds more flavor, if anything, so. I don't know, but that's really all there is to say about it. It's just kind of a I don't want to say a boring fight, but it's just like a standard fight. There's mud to actually, you know, not make it too easy, so. I don't know, Juratotis is like a 5 out of 10. It's not too interesting. Basarios. I love Basarios. Basarios was super cool. I also had this things happen. So when I was initially first playing through the game, I fought this and I was like, oh, that's super cool. I wasn't bouncing too much. I was a blunt weapon and I had like reasonable weapon sharpness because I didn't fight Basarios until after a couple of other types of monsters of that rank. But this is one of the monsters that I consider a homie. Like, whenever I see Basarios, I generally won't mess with it because it's totally cool. It's just like a little rock guy, he's just minding his business. And then there's been several times where, like, I'm fighting a monster. Oh no, shoot, I got stunned. And then Basarios just walks in, laser beams the monster to distract it for long enough for me to get out, and then he just dips. He's just a homie. He just walks in, says, hey, you're not killing that guy, and then leaves. And I can't thank you enough, my mans. And I think he is just super cool. He uses like a bunch of different elements. You can time your attacks. You can bust things open to make the bluntness not matter as much. I think Basarios is an 8 out of 10. I think he's really, really good. Yeah, we'll stick with 8. Somnicanth. Alright. Excuse me. So, Somnicanth is one that I just don't... It's not really for me. I can see how people would like it. I mostly just appreciate it because I wish there was more sleep stuff. Because Somnicanth is really the only option if you want to like run sleep as a weapon in the game. Because there's just not really any other bigger sleep monsters. So, as like a strong sleep monster, I guess I can respect that. But otherwise, it's like cool that it's a siren, and it's like a monster based on the siren myth. So it's like semi-mermaidy. The one thing I wish is that its roar dealt damage, or its roar did like some kind of like trance effect, or like there was something more to its roar other than just being loud and just is a roar. Because like it's a monster that's focused on audio and singing and making very loud noises that affect the hunters, but it's just kind of roars. So to be fair, the roar not dealing damage issue is one that I'll bring up when we talk about Tigrex, because I think it is literally entirely Tigrex's fault that most other monsters don't have damaging roars. But I'll get to that later. I just wish Somnicanth did. As it stands, it's like fine. I guess it's like a 5 out of 10. Nothing crazy. Roar Somnicanth is just Somnicanth, but worse. Anything that was interesting about Somnicanth was taken out and smoothed away by Roar Somnicanth. It's just Somnicanth, but like significantly worse. Like there's nothing really that interesting. Because like, if Somnicanth actually had some of the audio-based things going on with it, then this one might not have been so bad. But the only thing Somnicanth really had left was its looks, the fact that it was a sleep monster, and then it was like a Leviathan or whatever. But like a Roar Somnicanth is just like, oh, okay, well, instead of sleep, we're going to be ice, even though there's a ton of ice monsters. And it's like, oh, freezy beams are just not that interesting. And like, this one is one of the only ones I think is like a bad, what are they called? Not rare species, subspecies. I think this is one of the only subspecies that is like bad, that like actively hurt or made worse the original. So like I think Aurora Somnicanth's like a 2. I genuinely don't like it. It's bad. It's like a 2. 2 out of 10 for Aurora Somnicanth. Rathian's great. This is one of the first times you learn how to fight a dragon. And it's got a really learnable moveset. Initially, it's like hard to learn once you... Or not hard to learn, but hard to fight until you figure out the backflip. Then once you know the backflip, it's a lot less lethal, but still like reasonable to fight. And then you can like fully master its entire moveset, and then you're just like untouchable when you fight a Rathian, basically. It's a great monster for that. And it helps you really learn the patterns, because the backflip is so obvious a big tell, and it's so damaging and punishing if you get hit by it, because it deals a bunch of damage and poisons you. So it really makes you say, I do not want to get hit by that ever again, and then you keep an eye out for it, and then that helps you learn the rest of the fight as well. And so it's a really good monster for that. I appreciate Rathian. I don't think it's terribly interesting, because it's just a dragon. But I do appreciate it, so I'll give it slightly better than average. I'll give it like a 6 out of 10. There. Golden Rathian. Okay. So Golden Rathian, I actually really love. It's a great improvement on Rathian. Excuse me. I will drink some water briefly before I talk about Golden Rathian. So Golden Rathian, despite also just looking cooler from being golden, it has some interesting stuff about it. So it does, like, this extra little spin on its, like, backflips. It does extra little moves, a lot more charging. It remixes Rathian's original moveset to be a bit more dangerous and interesting. And then in addition to it, it has the, the Hellfire mode, which is extra cool, and it gives it, like, blue flames and extra damage, new moves, all this stuff. And that also allows you to actually hit it without, hit it at, like, full strength. I'm not sure what the durability thing is called, but it lets you hit it at full strength. Whereas, because normally, since it's got, like, metal skin, you're not always dealing full damage when you're swinging at it. Unless it's in Hellfire mode, you break apart, or you have, like, I think purple sharpness. And when it's in Hellfire mode, you get to, like, it's just really cool. I actually really like Golden Rathian. I'd give it like an 8. That's like it's a genuinely pretty good improvement on Rathian. I love Golden Rathian. I think this is just like an easy slam dunk for, like, because they're probably going to have Rathian in every game. And you can just slap Gold Rathian on the game without, like, breaking your budget or working too hard on changing, like, basically making it, because it's cheaper to add Gold Rathian than it is to add a whole new monster. So, like, it's a pretty quick and easy way to have, like, a pretty reasonable and fun monster in the game. Barioth. He's annoying. At least he's cool, though. Because Barioth is very high octane. Back and forth, charging this, shooting wind tornadoes, and just jumping around, doing crazy shit. Like, I think Barioth is an annoying fight, but, like, a learnable fight. It's definitely hard. Never really getting around that. Barioth is hard. But once you kind of get a feel for it, it's not too bad. And honestly, just the idea of, like, a saber-toothed dragon is just cool. Like, I don't make the rules here. It's just cool. I don't know what you want from me. It's, when something's cool, it's cool. So I'd give Barioth like a 6. It's not, like, mind-blowing, but, like, it's a good, solid, like, pretty difficult monster when you first fight it. That has, like, a pretty cool design. So, like, I'd give it like a 6. It's annoying, so that kind of removes a little bit for me, but 6 is totally fine. Tobi-Kadachi. This one is another homie. I love Tobi-Kadachi. So Tobi is a really, really fun monster. Super high energy, flying around, dipping, dodging, swinging its tail, attacking with claws, flying. I think that this Viper Squirrel is super duper awesome. And it also has the cool gimmick of, like, because it's an electric monster, and it has the gimmick of, like, it's the Zinogre gimmick, which is that it, like, lights up and, like, glows with electrical power once it, like, enrages and gets all super angry and electric-y. And so it's got, like, extra cool stuff on that too. And on top of all of this, as if this wasn't cool enough, because Tobi's a very fun fight. I think it's a really cool designed monster. It's like a little reptile, like a snake that's also a squirrel. What type of snake? A viper. Like a viper that is also a squirrel. And choosing to go with thunder instead of something like poison, I think was a good call. Because the easy decision would be to be like, oh, well, it's a snake and it's a viper, so we just make it a poison. Because snakes are poisonous, but, like, it's a lot more interesting that they didn't. So it's kudos to that, and it being a thunder monster is super cool. Its armor is also one of the best in the game if you're looking for like a barbarian look, or if you're just mixing and matching for shapes. So I don't quite want to give Toby a 10, but I think I'm going to give Toby a 9. I think that's our first 9 out of 10 so far. I think Toby Kadachi is phenomenal. Magnamalo. I mean, it's an interesting fight, but it's not... I don't really care about it. Its design is okay. I really like the way Hellfire works, and like how it adds like an extra delayed thing. Like you can tell that this one was designed for this game with the way that Wirefall works. You can tell that like the clouds are meant to catch you if you're doing it wrong or carelessly. You're not paying attention because they're just like a very quick and easy 1-2 on all of its attacks, and it creates a lot of really cool spectacle. But I mean, overall, it's kind of okay. I think this one's a tough one. I do like that it's also just not like just a dragon, because that would be like so easy to just be a dragon, because there are so many dragons in this game now that because when the game first came out, I had no idea that Monster Hunter was like mostly dragons. I thought it was just monsters of like all different kinds of shapes and sizes, but like most of the monsters they started like adding in from previous games were all just like dragons. So I was like, oh. So I can give Magnamalo some points for being interesting. So I think I want to give him a 7 out of 10. I think Magnamalo is fine. I think Magnamalo is fun, and I think his design is okay. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. Scoring Magnamalo, this guy is insane. I love this guy. This guy is sick. I kind of wish that this is what Magnamalo always was, but at the same time, you have to escalate. So the extra large blades, the scars, it's implied that like this Magnamalo was the same Magnamalo that Elder Fugen and them fought 50 years ago, because it feeds into its lore. Because Magnamalo has this thing where it tries to keep all of its like armory and like bits pristine, because if any parts of it like break off, it has a lot more difficulty finding mates. And so this one is super pissed because like 50 years ago, Fugen and Hugo, the guy who's riding the monster in the hub, I don't remember his name, but it's implied to be like the monster that they fought 50 years ago during the last rampage. And then they broke a piece of it, and then it's just super pissed because you can't get laid anymore now that it's ugly. And then so it's just grown in rage over the years, and so it's just taken over. And I think that is super cool. I think scoring Magnamalo is a 9. Definitely a 9 out of 10. I think this guy is awesome. Anjanath. I like Anjanath. It's so simple, and it's just got like 1 or 2 cute little like tweaks and uniqueness, like little gimmicks to it, and I really appreciate that, because it's a simple clean. So we're like, okay, here's the concept. It's a T-Rex. Okay, simple. And most games or ideas would stop there. But the thing I like about Monster Hunter is there's always a little bit more. So it's like, okay, it's a T-Rex, and it can breathe fire. Okay, so it's different from a dragon because it's a T-Rex. Still breathes fire, so it's like, okay, still pretty similar. And then they went and gave it like the weird nose and the big fins. And like, obviously there's the reasons for it being that like the fins are for like thermal regulation, which is like super good. I love that. That's super cool. And like the nose, I don't remember the reason for the nose, but I remember that there is a reason for the nose, but I think it's cool. Anjanath armor, also got to say, one of the best armor sets for mixing and matching. Absolutely adds great shapes, barbarian styling, just furry, fuzzy stuff. Really interesting thing, shows a lot of skin. So very, very cool armor on Anjanath as well. But, I think Anjanath's probably about an 8. I think Anjanath is an 8 out of 10. I think this guy's pretty damn good, though. Nargacuga. This is the best one of the monsters that like are like they're wyverns, but they like walk on all fours instead of like flying most of the time. The Tigrex, Barioth, Nargacuga. Those ones. I think Nargacuga is definitely the best one. It took the shape correctly. The way it moves is so cool. This like cat bat thing with like a explosive, sharp, spiky tail. It's immaculate. It's absolutely wonderful. So, I think Nargacuga is also maybe a 9 out of 10. I think Nargacuga is really, really good. Speaking of good armors, by the way, Nargacuga is another really good armor. Great for the ninja aesthetic. Really good shapes. Some of the only really poofy pants in the whole game as well. Lucid Nargacuga, 10 out of 10. Easy first 10 out of 10. It may not be the first 10 out of 10 that I ever found, because this is a Sunbreak monster that came out with the expansion pass. But as far as the way this list is showing it, this is the first 10 out of 10. Lucid Nargacuga is really, really cool. The idea to take Nargacuga and be like, okay, so we're going to completely change the gimmick around. So now this one's gimmick is that it can turn invisible, and it's poisonous. And like those combined create like such a great, like a perfect idea of like an ambush hunter. That like Nargacuga was already like thought to be like, yeah, okay, it's a stealthy, it'll do its thing, but like Lucent is like to the next level with it. The fight is insane and fun, and it's beautiful with like the white sheen on the purple. So Lucent Nargacuga is an easy 10 out of 10 for sure. Mizutsune. So, when I took the was it like the Monster Hunter websites, like what monster are you quiz? I actually got Mizutsune, and I'm totally cool with that because I think Mizutsune is fantastic. I think it is really cool. It's a Leviathan class, I think. Yeah, it's a Leviathan, and it has such an interesting gimmick that is not like too outlandish, right? Because it's like, oh, bubbles, well, that's too fantasy for me. Oh, you need magic, blah, blah, blah. But, like, being covered in a soapy liquid and then, like, spinning around a bunch and flying and dipping and like, doing all this stuff, you're going to make bubbles. So, like, making a bubble monster is not that far off, actually, from, like, what could be possible. So it's super duper cool. I think it's gorgeous. It's absolutely probably one of the most aesthetically beautiful monsters, like, period. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's an easy 9. Is it a 10? Is Mizutsune a 10 out of 10? Got really pretty armor too. I think lends itself well to all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I think I'm comfy saying Mizutsune is a 10 out of 10. It's probably right on that edge though, so it's like it could definitely be argued down to a 9. But I think I'm comfortable with it being a 10 out of 10. The first, like, standard monster that is a 10 out of 10 for me is Mizutsune, for sure. And then Violet Mizutsune, also a 10. What can I say? It's Mizutsune, but, like, kind of cooler. It's like, so it's flammable soap. And then it's also got, like, the like, spirit bomb thing that it does, which is extra cool. It's just Mizutsune, but cooler. Or, I guess, hotter. Violet Mizutsune is also a 10 out of 10. Not really much to say there. Gosharag. So, this is yet another one that I hear a lot of people say and, like, talk about of, like, oh, this is their favorite, this is the one they love, that I'm just kind of okay with. Like, I appreciate it. I think it's good. Don't get me wrong. I think Gosharag is easily one of the best ones of, like, the list that's new in this game. But, I don't think it's, like, amazing. It's not like the new sliced bread or whatever, right? It's just good. And I appreciate it. And I'm surprised that there has not been a subspecies or anything yet. Given how popular it is and how easy it would be to just make different versions of this monster. So, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of got the Yeti thing going, but it's pretty easy to make like a jungle version of a Yeti. It's the Bigfoot stuff, so could be good. But I think Osterog is absolutely a solid choice. But I don't think it's phenomenal. I think it's really cool though. So we'll 8. I think for me personally, it's probably about a 7. I think it's a 7 out of 10 for me for Gossarog. Garen Golem. So this is one of the, was it the 3 lords from Sunbreak. I think he is super duper cool. It's cool that we got another monkey. I think, honestly, we probably need more monkeys in the game, because it's like Brajang and Garen Golem, and that's like all of the monkeys I think I've seen. Which, like, there should be more. I think monkey is like a super underrated type. Why isn't there just more monkeys? It's like so perfect. Although, and like the way they did Garen Golem was super cool. He's kind of like an in tune with Earth type of monster. So it's got like the magma, rock, fight, so fire. And then it's got like the water, nature, grass like side, and it kind of goes back and forth. And this is also the first monster of, because I didn't realize it at first. So apparently the 3 Lords of Sunbreak are based on like the movie monsters. So there's Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. And this is supposed to be Frankenstein, a giant gorilla Frankenstein, which is like, oh, that's a great pairing. But I had to be told, because there are no Frankenstein vibes from this. It's just monkey. It's just a monkey vibe. I'm not really sure what about it reads as Frankenstein, other than like a big squarish head. But still a great solid monster, 7 out of 10. Shogun Signatar, this guy. I got so mad when I first fought this guy, because I just didn't. He has a like a specific move that is a trap if you wirefall, and that was so annoying for a long time, because I was just like, what the fuck? How is he reaching me all the way? Because I would, wirefall out of it after getting hit the second time, so I'd wirefall again, and I'd be like super high up in the air, and he would still hit me with it. And like he goes underground, and he's just like whoocha, and just like slashes up in the air, and it catches you, and it's meant to like trap wirefall. But it even traps wirefall if you're wirefalling from being way up in the air. And it was the most annoying thing for the longest time. But I think he's still a really fun monster. Another one that's like really cool once you like learn how to break him. Then he's got his little nub that he's got showing to you, and you can attack the nub and then deal extra damage, and then he'll have to go and eventually find a new face. You can break off his claws. I think Shogun Signatar is great. I think he's probably... Oh, this is also the introduction of Bleed, actually. I totally forgot. Because Bleed wasn't in Base Rise. They added Bleed in Sunbreak. And this was the first guy that I've experienced Bleed with, and it was like, wait, what the fuck? How do I get rid of it? And then so you have to... one of my friends was telling me, so you apparently have to bring fatty fish, or whatever it's called, and you have to eat the fish, or you have to stand still and crouch with your weapon away for like maybe a couple seconds. And it's like, that's really annoying to do, especially for like... So I'm also generally a solo hunter. I play through the game mostly solo. And that... So I'm a blunt user and I'm a solo player most of the time. So that's definitely going to color a lot of how I view these monsters. And with Shogun, and honestly any of the Bleed monsters, they are downright difficult as solo. Just because finding the time to stand there, do nothing for a couple seconds without having to dodge or run or like build up the bleed is rough. So it was a great introduction to Bleed as well, because it has like reasonable windups. It does crab things. So I think it's pretty good. I think it's like good. I think it's 8. I think it's 7. I think it's a 7 out of 10. Rathalos. I think Rathalos is super fucking annoying. Like, I understand it's it is kind of a cooler Rathian, but like it was it was fine in low rank. In high rank it was annoying. In master rank it is like, oh, sorry, in high rank it is like super annoying, and then in master rank it kind of mellowed out a bit. But like it just flies around too much, man. It's just annoying. Like get the fuck down here and fight me. I would rate it higher because it is cooler, and like once you know the fight, like it's a little bit more interesting, but it still just flies around a lot. I don't really like that. So I think I'm gonna give it a lower rank than Rathian. I think it's gonna be a 5. I think it's gonna be a 5 out of 10. Silver Rathalos. All of my problems that I had with Rathalos are gone. I think this monster is insanely cool. It's like if Rathalos still had all of its cool stuff, and then it had like even cooler stuff. And this one, I don't even mind that it like, because it also flies around a lot like Rathalos does, but it's not as annoying with this one for some reason. So like with Silver Rathalos, I'm totally cool with it flying around sometimes, because it actually gives you a time to catch your breath, because it's a lot more intense of a fight. So when it flies around and you can't hit it, it actually just gives you a chance to do what you need to do. You know, heal up, sharpen, you know, do whatever you're going to do while it's flying around saying, fuck you. It's just a lot more fun. I 100% think that they just, like, fixed all of my problems with Rathalos. I think Silver Rathalos is a 9 out of 10. I think it's, like, genuinely that much of an improvement. So, like, with any game... Because, again, Rathalos is just like Rathian. They're going to have them in every game. I think it's just a super slam dunk to just add Gold and Silver Rathalos and Rathian to the game for, like, a lot cheaper. It's practically... It's not free, but, like, it's super easy to just throw them in as just like, hey, here they are, enjoy these better fights. I think that's great. I think it's fantastic. Almudron. I really like Almudron, actually. It's a really annoying and... Well, it's a really annoying fight. And Mud is also very annoying. But the way that it, like... So, like, it builds structures. It wiggles around a lot. It goes in and out of the ground using... Because it's also got this really interesting, like, lore bit, where the way that it moves around in, like, solid rock and, like, things that aren't mud is that it excretes, like, a extremely hot, like, fluid around itself that melts it. And so it kind of turns it into mud, which is interesting. And then it, like, builds these structures that you can use as for, like, sick, cool combos and acrobatics to then fight it. So it's really cool. I think Almudron's like a... Probably like a 8 out of 10? 7? I think Almudron's a 7 out of 10. Magma Aldron, it kind of bothers me that they chose Magma for Almudron subspecies, because its gimmick was sort of already that, where it was like, again, it like excreted stuff to melt the things around it and then just turn it into mud, but now it's like hot enough to turn it into lava, so I guess it's just hotter. But the thing is, like, it is cooler, is the thing. I almost wish they'd have chosen a different element, but Magma Almudron is really, really cool. So, the way that it, like, changed... So the platforms also now explode. It creates these more. It's a little bit like the, what was it, Basil Goose? Where it, like, creates these little explodey bits, and it also helps catch Wirefall. Creates the little 1-2. The way it flies around, it uses the orb for giant explosions. I think Magma Almudron's probably a 9. I really like it, and it does really, really well. So I do kind of wish they'd have done something other than Magma, just because it kind of already... It's pretty much the same monster, but hotter. But, like, the actual, like, fight itself, the changes they made on that, are really good. And I won't lie, it does look really cool with the little orangey glowy bits. It's just kind of sick. Zinogre. This is... this is another one that I think is, like, really, really good. So pretty much all the good stuff I said about Tobi Kadachi are kind of true here too. He's fast, he's strong, he runs around, he does the electrical thing where he just glows and attacks and does all this other really cool stuff. And I think he just does it so well. I think he's also a fanged beast, right? Like that's the, or sorry, fanged wyvern. My horn is literally underlining it. He's a fanged wyvern, which is cool, because there aren't very many like him from what I've seen. There's only been a couple of like beasts, because most of the things that have been added are like dragons. So I guess this is a bit of a rarer type of monster than I originally thought. So I think Zinogre. I think Zinogre is also. I think it's probably right around where I like what I think about Mizitsune. I think it's right on the edge of 9 and 10. Oh, I gotta pick one though. I gotta pick one. So I think for Zinogre, I'm gonna give it a. I'm waffling a lot more, so that tells me I should give it a 9 instead of a 10. So I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give Zinogre a 9. I think Zinogre is really, really good, but I'm hesitant to give it a 10. Lunagaron, this is fine. It's the Wolfman. It's an ice monster. It gets like the big wolfman, werewolfy stuff with like the ice claws, and it expands and stuff. It's cool. It's fine. It's nothing too special, to be honest. I think Lunagaron is like a 6. Yeah, like a 6. It's fine. Astalos. So I'm torn on Astalos because I think I both love it and don't like it at the same time. It's so weird. So I like the way it looks, and I like the way it fights. But I also kind of don't like the way it looks, and I kind of don't like the way it fights. I don't know. I'm really torn on it. So I think like the good bits are good. And then like there are bits that make me question whether I like it. I don't know. It's cool that it's electric, and it's like a bug-like dragon. So outside of, because I don't think there's been any bug monsters. So I don't know if that's just like a type they don't do, and so maybe like a bug-like dragon is the best we got. So for that, maybe he's just really, really good for being, because he's pretty bug-like. He's kind of like got that beetle type stuff going. He's got like the big horn, and he's got the insectoid wings. I think Astalos is probably going to be like a 7. I think a 7 out of 10 for Astalos is completely reasonable. Espinas. So this was awesome. It's apparently from Monster Hunter Frontier, which I guess is a big deal because it was the Monster Hunter MMO that apparently recently shut down. So they're bringing him over to the mainline series of games, which is really cool. And I think he's a slam dunk, like a poison rose dragon. So it's got like both the ability to poison you and burn you, but then it adds paralysis in for the triple threat. That is like, that's sort of what gives it that extra uniqueness flavor. And then like the extra armor on it, it starts asleep most of the time, which is like super cool. Because base Rise didn't really do that very much, where like they had Rajang sleep sometimes, but that was more of like felt more gameplay reasons, where they just didn't want it running around yet. Because they show it to you on the map a lot earlier than you're supposed to really be able to fight it, I think. But Espinas is just always asleep, and then they wake up, or you have to wake them up. But even if you try to wake them up, sometimes they don't, because I guess the armor on the head doesn't count as like a wake-up attack, which is like cool. I like that. Espinas is really, really cool. I think Espinas is a 10 out of 10. It's a really easy 10 out of 10, I think. This is probably the easiest 10 out of 10 for base monsters, in my opinion. There's been, like, you know, subspecies and like other things have gotten up there, but and like there's like Mizitsune and Zinogre's on the edge. But I think Espinas is the first one that like very cleanly just clears the barrier. Where it's just like, yeah, I'm a 10 out of 10. What about it? Yeah, I know it. I've got all this cool shit. What about it? Yeah, I'm a thorn. I really love Espinos. Flaming Espinos. This is one of those monsters, because as I played solo, and I could not beat Flaming Espinos the first time by myself. I literally went online and had to fight randos. Because it's just Espinos turned up to 11, and when you're still, like, fresh in like, master rank and stuff, where you don't have, like, really good armor, like, I hadn't even fought the final boss yet, and I tried out Flaming Espinos, or I think that might have been the order of operation, I don't remember. Might have been, like, right after I beat the boss. But I tried out Flaming Espinos, and I just couldn't beat it. It was, like, not possible as one player when you don't have, like, really strong gear. So I had to bite the bullet and play online with randos. It was hard. And, like, he's super cool, though. I mean, it's just kind of like Espinos, but stronger. So I do wish that it was more interesting. Like, it was really... Because the image makes it look like it's, like, a much different color. But it's just kind of like a more reddish Espinos, which is like, okay. I wish it was like a more interesting like color, more interesting like powers. It's just kind of like Espinos but mad, you know? And I don't think that's like as cool as something like Magma Almudron, where it's like a different type or anything like that. So it's still like a 10 out of 10 because, I mean, hard to go wrong when you're Espinos, right? But definitely harder. And I kind of wish they'd have done something a little bit more interesting. Gormagala. This guy is awesome. I really like the Gormagala stuff. I had no idea what the fuck was happening the first time I fought a Gormagala. I was like, what is that blue meter? What's this blue stuff? What's happening? Why can't I? Where's all my health? Like, it was super confusing. And then, like, turns out they give you little word bubbles where, like, the characters will tell you what's happening. But if you missed those, you didn't know. You just had no idea. Or you know, if you looked in its monster tabs in here, it would tell you some stuff. But this guy looks super cool. This is like that typical. This is like when you're 14 and edgy, and you're like, I think that this is like the coolest thing on the planet. Like, Gormagala is probably your favorite monster when you're 14, right? I'm not saying it's a bad thing if you like it as an adult or like whatever. I just think that all 14-year-olds probably like this monster a lot more than the other monsters. But it's warranted. He's super cool. Like, the way his wings like drag behind him like a dark cloak is just super duper cool. And he's like blind apparently, which is also actually pretty cool. He's got like this helmet on, which also means that their armor looks very, very cool. Where it's like this, not like Power Rangers, but like definitely like helmeted, closed off. Very cool. So I think Gormagala's a 9. Definitely a 9. 9 out of 10 for Gormagala. Chaotic Gormagala. I think this is probably a 10. The idea... So, the idea of taking a Gormagala that's like about to mature, and then it failed for one reason or another, and then it's just living in agony and lashing out, and it's like permanently mad and angry because it's in constant pain. And then so it also is like adds a twist to all the Gormagala things because it's only kind of Gormagala. So it takes all of the Gormagala pieces and like it adds a new twist because it's not just Gormagala now. And like, so I think it's a 10. It's really, really good. What? No Kushala Magala? Where's Kushala? Alright, I'll rank Kushala later. Seregios. I think Seregios is a 10 out of 10. This might be my favorite monster from the ones I've fought so far. Seregios is super cool. Like, the super sharp gimmick, like the idea to take, so like a wyvern or a dragon, which is like, so a wyvern is kind of like if a dragon was more realistic, where it only had the 4 limbs. So it was a lot more bird-like. And then taking that and pushing it farther to be, oh, well, what if it was owl-like? Well, and owls have special feathers, and then so it helps them slice through the air so they don't make any noise. And then taking that to its extreme by being, oh, well, if an owl dragon was the way it would have extremely sharp scales that would to help slice through and stay silent. that would give it extra air maneuverability. Owls are some of the best at it. Incredibly sharp. The owl talons and feet are super cool looking on like a wyvern or dragon. Seregios is just the coolest shit ever, man. I'm 10 out of 10 Seregios, man. Give me some more of this guy. The bleed also makes sense because it's like the extra sharp, so it's cuts deeper or whatever, so you have to actually sit still, bandage your wounds. And sitting still against Seregios is fucking impossible, man. This guy does, well, at least as solo. I assume in multiplayer hunts it's probably a lot easier. But against Seregios as solo, you almost don't have time to really stand there and let the bleed pair off. You're usually better off just bringing a fish. Because he will constantly dive your ass, and it is cool. And you have to like learn like, oh, okay, so he's diving with this foot forward, so I need to dodge to the right or to the left because it's the other foot. Like, Seregios is my man's, and his armor is super slick. It's some of the only like metal armor suit, like metal suit of armor that I like in the game. I don't like very many of them, but Seregios is just clean. The extra like the scaling and like the bright gold, it's just it's magnifique. All of it just together perfect. Here we go. All right, are you guys ready for a rant? Because I have words for Tigrex. I hate Tigrex. This is this is the only monster that I have in all of Monster Hunter that I think the game would genuinely be better if Tigrex wasn't in it. And I don't even mean that just from like I hated fighting it, it was really annoying and it killed me a bunch kind of ways. I think genuinely from a design standpoint, its existence is holding back other monsters. Like, so I mentioned it briefly earlier, where Somnicanth was not allowed to have a roar that deals damage despite being a audio-based monster. And that's because Tigrex has a roar that deals damage. Oh, well, yeah, but monsters can have two things. Apparently not. Because Tigrex has a roar that deals damage. And that's also the only interesting thing about Tigrex. Which means if they give it to any other monsters, Tigrex sucks. Tigrex just runs around a lot and is annoying. And it's like, guys, because it's the only thing that makes it unique, they feel the need, like they can't give it to anything else, because now suddenly, if Tigrex isn't unique in this way, there's nothing left. It's just not interesting. Because it just runs around and charges a lot, which is like, okay, there is merit to a monster that behaves like that. I'm not saying it shouldn't exist in that way, but the way that its roar is handled and that nothing else gets to have a roar like that is almost entirely because of Tigrex's existence. Like, let other monsters have it and just cut Tigrex. Because Tigrex isn't even that interesting. So, like, it is of that, like, cool, interesting type of wyvern, where they're, like, more like land-dwelling wyverns, if that makes sense. But that doesn't, like, there are other monsters that have done that better. Like, Barioth is just a better Tigrex. In, like, the way it fights, it's still just as unga-bunga. It gets in there, it gets on your grill. It flies around just as much, it just jumps a bunch. And then, like, its design is cooler, too. It's like a saber-toothed dragon and all that. Like, Tigrex is just, it has that body type, and it has stripes. And, like, that's its design. And it's like, okay, that's kind of lame. And then its gameplay design is that it's just very active and aggressive, which can be annoying, but can have its place. And then there's the roar, which, again, literally the existence of the roar on Tigrex is holding back other monsters. Because they won't... Because if the monster only has one gimmick, one thing making it unique, no other monsters are allowed to have that. Because you're unique. And if other monsters have that, you're not unique and you're not anything. And they just don't want Tigrex to be nothing. And I think that they just don't want to get rid of Tigrex. Fuck Tigrex, man. I think Tigrex is genuinely holding back several other monsters. Just by the fact that it has nothing else interesting going on. Like, I'd be okay if you took Tigrex and gave it another gimmick or other gimmicks to make it interesting, and then let other monsters have like better roars, better audio based weaponry. Because as it stands, every time I see Tigrex, it pisses me off. That's my rant on Tigrex. I would give it a 0. I would give it a 0, but just because it actively, I think, makes other monsters worse. But I'll give it a 1 because I do recognize that even without its roar, like its fighting style of like constantly running around and charging and like all that high octane, it has a place. I just wish that they wouldn't, like, I wish it had more going. I wish it had something else that it could do so that they could stop holding back other monsters just because Tigrex only has one thing. So I'll give it a 1. That's my Tigrex feelings. Diablos. So, fun fact, I had no idea that Diablos wasn't like the mascot monster. Cause like when I came over to Monster Hunter, so I started in Monster Hunter Rise. I had been under the assumption for the entirety of seeing Monster Hunter from the outside that Diablos was the monster. It was like the mascot. Like if you had like Monster Hunter the game, then like Diablos would be on the cover. I thought that it was, and then like I watched some like lore videos and people talking about stuff, and then like Diablos was in the very first game. He was actually the first like boss, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, that makes sense. And then I play the game, and it turns out, so I guess Rathian and Rathalos are apparent like the most well, they're not the most generic dragons. They actually visually are distinct enough. But Diablos is like the perfect mascot. So it blows my mind that he's not. Because Diablos has like the look. The design is great. It's an iconic design. It's like fairly like Triceratopsy, which is a very iconic image and creature. It's got the digging underground gimmick. It's got the extra rage gimmick. It's also one of the most one of the things that is most unique to Monster Hunter, which is the way that the monsters are so different from what you would just imagine, in that it's a vegetarian. It's not a carnivore, but it has all of this stuff, and it's angry, and it attacks. It's violent, but it's a herbivore. It eats cactus, and like that's one of the draws of Monster Hunter. What makes their monsters unique is that they're not always what you may just initially think on the surface. And so I thought Diablos was like the quintessential monster. I still kind of think it is. I think that Diablos is like the monster that like should sell you on Monster Hunter, and it absolutely feels correct. So it's like Diablos, I think, is a 10 out of 10. I think it is the perfect monster. There's so much good going on with Diablos that it's perfect. There's nothing I would change about it, period. I think it's just ideal, and it still blows my mind that it's not the mascot. Especially considering it was in the first game, and it was like literally the boss of the first game or something, like the secret boss. So, what was me? I guess just the Japanese developers prefer the dragon-y type ones, but that's the other thing that makes this one a little bit more interesting, is it's not like a dragon, which helps it also stand out more in a field of dragons. So, whatever. I love Diablos. Diablos is perfect. I think it's the perfect monster. Raknakadaki. Oh, yes. Speaking of, there is a insect. Well, arachnids aren't technically insects, if you want to be that guy, but the bug monsters. So there actually are bug monsters. I remember I brought that up earlier. I think Raknakadaki is pretty cool. It's got like little fire bugs. Uses its webs. Flies around. Does flames. It's like pretty good. It's like I'd probably give it like a 7, actually. Probably about a 7 out of 10 for Raknakadaki. Pyre Raknakadaki is just what Raknakadaki should have been. You guys took a fire monster and made it like more fire. Like it, why wouldn't this have? This feels like it just should have been normal Arachnakadaki. Like the way that it uses its thread, it still uses its children perfectly. Fire along the thread, like this just feels like what it should have been. It doesn't even really feel like an upgrade. It just feels like I'm you. If you were better, like I'm just the ideal version of you. Like Pyarachnakadaki is like definitely just so much better. To the point where you're just like, well, if Arachnakadaki was already a fire monster, why wasn't it just like this? So I think that this one was a big swing and a miss on the choice to stick in the fire type, because by creating Pyre, that you kind of just obsoleted original Arachnakadaki. Like original Arachnakadaki was fine, but after fighting Pyre, you have no interest in it. It's literally just a worse version of this fight. And there's nothing unique about Rachna that would make you want to fight the original Arachnakadaki over Pyarachna. So it's like, this is typically what I would consider the greatest sin a sequel or follow-up to something could do, which is to make the original worse. So even though Arachnakadaki is okay, I almost want to actually just decrease its grade because Pyre is just so much better and obsoleted it. But like, part of me also is because I have this thing about, again, sequel. If a sequel makes the original worse by existing, then that's a really bad thing for a sequel to do. You shouldn't do that. So I think I'll give Pyarachnakadaki an 8, and I'll go back and I'll change my normal Arachnakadaki into a 6. Kushala, this guy's boring. Kushala's boring. It's not really a hard fight. It's not really an interesting dragon. It's just a dragon that's made of metal that shoots wind. It almost has something going with like an icicle shape among its wings. Because like the way that they're tiered would be like perfect for ice stuff, but it's just wind. Just wind, and it's made of metal, and it's a dragon. It's really boring. The fight is also very uninteresting. It's super easy. I get it. So like it introduces you to like elder dragons, but like that's it. Nothing else. Like a 5. Kushala's whatever. Risen Kushala is actually pretty fun. Takes everything Kushala had and sort of like ramps it up to actually be interesting. To the like for a fight, it makes it a lot more interesting to dodge and play around and kill. But it's still kind of too easy in my opinion. I think this is the easiest of all the Risen. At least again, as a solo player, I think Risen Kushala is so much easier than like Chameleos and Teostra. That I think Risen Kushala, while it is better, isn't like that much better. I think it's like a 6. I'm going to change Kushala Diora to a 4. 4 out of 10 for Kushala. And then a 6 for Risen, yeah. If that sounds right. As soon as I ranked it, I was like, no, that feels like the right place for Risen, but I feel like the gap between Risen and normal should be more. It's because I ranked Kushala too high. Kushala's a 4. Melios, this guy's awesome. I think he's super cool. Another monster that I can really appreciate their choice to not give him a roar. Because why would this stealth creature need a roar for any reason when it just turns invisible and like doesn't bother anybody? It's not like a carnivore or anything. Well, I think it's an insectivore as well as an herbivore, but it just eats stuff. It's fun. Eats your spirit bird nectar, which is weird. Excuse me. But it also doesn't eat that much of it. I assumed, because when it said like, oh, your X pollen was stolen, I assumed that meant it just ate all of that type of pollen. But it apparently just like eats 1 or 2. So not really that scary, but cool poison monster. Introduced you to Venom, which personally I have no idea how it's different from poison, other than like I guess it deals more damage, something like that. But I think Chameleos is super strong and solid from like a design standpoint. I think Chameleos is like an 8 out of 10. I think he's really cool. Risen Chameleos, I kind of want to give it... I think I'll just go with a 9. I'll go with a 9 out of 10. So I think Risen Chameleos is Chameleos but better in like a very cool way. Like a lot better of a way. It looks way cooler with like the little orange tips and like, oh, it survived all of the Curio. And it has like these extra super cool like Nova-esque attacks that like will really mess you up and give you venom. So you like, even if you don't die initially, you're going to probably die to the poison before you can get fully recovered, because this is another monster that's actually quite difficult in solo, I think, to the point where I had to meander around a lot for fighting this guy. I had to like disengage, re-engage, like there's a lot of pussyfooting around, I guess is the way you would call it. But yeah, I'm gonna give Risen Chameleos a 9. I think it's really, really good, but not quite 10 out of 10. Teostra, I don't like Teostra. It's just annoying. I mean, it's visually interesting. I think visually Teostra is pretty good, but the fight is just annoying and a lot of fire and boom boom, and it's like pretty hard. So it's like it's got some difficulty to it, which is cool. I'd give Teostra probably like a 6. I think a 6 for Teostra. Risen Teostra is just Teostra but harder and visually cooler. So like a 7. 7 out of 10 for Risen Teostra. Malzeno. I think this guy's really cool. So he's like the vampire dragon. He's the mascot of Sunbreak. He's a very hard fight when you're first coming in. I was wondering, I was like, oh, I wonder how hard, you know, Sunbreak's going to be coming in from having just, you know, beat Valstrax and all this other high rank stuff. And they did a really good job on Malzeno. Because, like, he felt like a wall. It, like, once you beat, like, it's very easy to categorize the game to before you can beat Malzeno and after you can beat Malzeno. Because he just kind of fits. And he's like perfectly there. I think Malzeno's a 9, actually. I think Malzeno is a 9 out of 10. Malzeno is really, really good. Super hard to fight. Really cool extra, like, darkness vampire mode. Like that weird super speed teleportation stuff. I mean, just visually it's really cool. The way that they managed to make, like, so like the Curio, like, nest on its neck, and it just looks like the collars of, like, the traditional vampire look is, like, oh, there's just so much of this monster to love. It's absolutely phenomenal the way they did it. Shigaru Magala, here we go. So this is the evolved Gore Magala. And, oh, hold on, sorry. Let me yawn and drink a drink of water. So, Shigaru Magala is what keeps Malzeno from a 10 out of 10? Actually, yeah, let's go back. So, Malzeno, I feel, does almost everything right. Why do I feel the need? Because I do kind of feel like he doesn't get a 10 out of 10, but I'm not sure. Let's see if I can decipher this. So, I think it's really interesting as a dragon. It goes past everything. It's got all the vampire qualities. Its design is amazing. Its fight is amazing. Its placement in the game and the story is amazing. It feeds off of everything else in the lore and the designs perfectly. What is it that's keeping me from 10 out of 10ing it? I'm not sure if there is a direct reason. Maybe I just don't like its face. As weird as that sounds, I think it probably does deserve a 10 out of 10. Yeah, I think Malzeno does deserve a 10 out of 10. I think I just didn't think, just was like something holding me back, but like listing it all out, I can't think of anything other than like I don't like the shape of its face. And if the shape of its face is enough to keep it out of 10 out of 10, then I'm sorry, but gotta change some of these previous answers. No, yeah, I think Malzeno actually does make 10 out of 10. That's a fair call on you, because I did just kind of just give it nothing but praise and then say 9 instead of 10. It actually does feel like a 10 out of 10. That's my old bias, I suppose, coming in. But I think it's great. Moving on to Shigaru Magala, though. So this is Gore Magala all grown up. And this is apparently, so I guess lore-wise, Shigaru in the area is the reason for chaotic Gore Magalas. So a Gore Magala will evolve into a Shigaru Magala. And then, like, it has territory. And then if any other Gore Magalas try to ascend in its territory, it will, like, stop them. And then so they get stuck in that half and half state of chaotic Gore Magala. Which is, like, super interesting. I think that's super cool. And if Gore was, like, the dark version, this is, like, the light version. This is, like, I moved past my edgy phase, but I still have a lot of the same aesthetics, despite being a lot more interesting and less edgy. And, like, I think Shigaru is really, really good. I also love the way that it's just like, I am buff dragon with big ripped arms. And it just, like, manhandles other monsters, which is really cool. I think I want to... I'm not sure. I think I might also give Shigaru Magala a 10 out of 10 as well. It also kind of feels like on that cusp of like 9 and 10, but I think I'll lean into 10. Because I think Shigaru deserves it. I think it's really, really cool. It has the extra little lore bits to sort of push it over the edge. Rajang. Is it bad that, like, Rajang is the coolest shit ever? Like, so I'm a Dragon Ball fan. I get that it's, like, very directly just a Goku reference. It even has, like, the Kaioken, the Super Saiyan, like, it's really cool, though. Like, the giant monkey. Yeah, Rajang's a 10 out of 10. I don't really think there's a way to really fight it. It's just is. It's way too cool. It's a big monkey, it throws stuff, it hits you, it's fast. It's one of the strongest small monsters, which is very interesting because most of the time when it's like, oh, make monster stronger, I know, I'll make it bigger. And it's like, oh, okay, well, but this is a monster that is like pure concentrated muscle. It's like if you like squeezed it down, but its muscles just like retained their density. So it's like really, really good. I think Rajang is a pretty obvious 10 out of 10. Furious Rajang, I actually... It's just Rajang, but always Super Saiyan, right? So I'm not too big of a fan of the, like, I'm X monster, but madder! And, like, Furious Rajang is kind of just... I actually kind of want to give it a lower rank than normal Rajang. Because it's just less interesting because it doesn't change. It's just always on. That makes sense. I think I'm going to give Furious Rajang like a 9 out of 10. Because I just don't think it's as interesting. Also, it looks weird without the tail. Like, a Saiyan without its tail? Come on. Give it its tail back. Basil Geese. We're rolling now, right? We're on the 10 out of 10 train. I'm just kidding. Basil Geese, base Basil Geese is a 9 out of 10. It's very nearly there, but it's just, it doesn't really do anything interesting. So, like, it's got all the cool pine cones that explode, that it drops, it flies around, it does bombing runs, but it just kind of chills. It's just there. It's more of just like a punching bag. It's not like... I guess what I'm trying to say is it's too easy. Like, you're just kind of gonna fly around and you're gonna hit it and it's gonna drop things and you're just not gonna get hit by them. And then you just kill it. Like, I think it's too easy to be a 10 out of 10. Because especially at this point in the game where everything's so hard, I think you want a harder monster than Basil Geese. So I think Basil Geese is a 9 out of 10. Seething Basil Geese, while I am not normally a fan of the I'm you but madder monsters, Seething Basil Geese fixes pretty much my only problem with normal Basil Geese, which is that he's harder. So I'm 10 out of 10. He's Basil Geese, but harder. And that's exactly what I was looking for, because Basil Geese is a bit too easy. And then, so now there's a harder one. And he just looks cooler. The bright blue explosions and fire just look so much, cleaner and cooler. Especially when contrasted with his, reddened state when he's mad. Wind Serpent Ibushi. So this is the first boss of the game. So this, I guess, is the time to bring up rampages. So in the original Rise, before the expansion, in original Rise, base Rise, you fought Ibushi in the rampage. And the rampage was sort of their big, it's like a tower defense kind of thing. And I don't dislike the rampage. The problem is, the more times you had to do the rampage, the worse it got. So the rampage was really fun the first, I'd say 4 times. And after that, it started to get worse and worse and worse. The more you played it, the less interesting it got. It does not have the same level of replayability of just hunting a monster. So the rampage was good in the beginning, and it got worse over time. And it made it rough, because if you wanted Ibushi stuff, you could only do him in the rampage, which means you would overplay the rampage, and thus it became not fun. And then they allowed you to fight him outside of the rampage, thank God. I think Ibushi is a really fun fight. In Rampage, it was whatever. I didn't really like it, but if that was the only version of the fight we had, he'd have a much lower score. But I think Ibushi's fine. It's a reasonable fight. It blows you around. It's big. It dies to its wife to feed its unborn child. It's a 7 out of 10. Thunder Serpent Narwhal. So this is the first, big final boss. This was my first, what do they call it? Well, because it's I didn't count Ibushi as what they call a spectacle fight, where it's the first big, it's a new arena and all this other cool stuff, because it was just a part of the rampage. But Narwhal is the first one of your spectacle fight, the big, super cool, this is some crazy bullshit fight. And it was cool, where you fight these big donuts, and it shoots lightning, and it's big and it's flying around, and you have to find your opportunities to hit it, and then it uses magnetism to raise platforms, and then you have to jump around on them and just kill all that stuff. So it's pretty good. I like Narwhal. I think it's about an 8. It's probably only a little bit better than Ibushi. It's an 8 out of 10. I don't find the serpents to be terribly replayable. Once you've fought them once, it's kind of the same thing again, but not in a terribly interesting way. They're okay. You kill a father, yes. So Ibushi and Narwhal, they're lovers, and technically, so we kill Ibushi, who's the daddy, and then Narwhal is the mommy. Technically, we kill Narwhal while she's pregnant, so the baby never comes out. Because that's what, I assume, yep, the next one is Narwhal the All-Mother. This is pregnant Narwhal. We get to kill the pregnant mom. Yay! We kill the pregnant one. So this is Narwhal, after she's been impregnated, and has feasted upon Ibushi's sacrifice. And it's so much better of a fight, and it has and when she picks up, I guess, a bunch of the left behind Dragonators on the ground, and does this blender, and God, dude, I pretty much die to that every time. It's bad. But no, this is it's a hard fight, and it's really fun. It's a cool idea. Visually, adding the Ibushi colors onto Narwa is really cool. So it just creates this contrast of like her bright yellows that she uses for thunder, and then Ibushi's like bright blues, and so it just mixes really well together, and it's really, really great. So I just don't think it's very replayable though. Like once you fight it and then you beat it, you aren't gonna be like, let me boot up and fight a Narwa. Yeah, let's fight some Narwa, baby. Like that's just kind of not really, at least not in my experience. It's not really how it feels. So like I'm gonna give it a 9 because it is better, but it lacks the replayability factor of a lot of the other fights and monsters in the game. Crimson Glow Valstrax. This guy is pretty sick. He's hard to fight. I don't know if he was always this hard to fight, but he was really hard to fight when I first like sat down and was like, what's a Valstrax? And then like I booted in and I just immediately died repeatedly. Especially because, so this, fun fact, because the way that Rise worked, with wirefalls and your massive amount of mobility, that they allow you to use like verticality and like run around, run from, jump around, dodge pretty much everything from a monster. I did not know about what they call the Superman dive. I just didn't know about it because I've never been forced to use it when I could either just tank a hit with an Aurora Toll or like do something else fancy, or just, you know, wirefall out before the follow-up, or just dodge it entirely. I just never had to use the actual Superman dive to beat anything until Valstrax, because it did the ambush thing, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Because like I couldn't dodge roll through it, I couldn't do anything. So this, literally, it took all the way until Valstrax came out for me to learn what the goddamn Superman dive was, where you're completely invulnerable for the entire dive. Because I was like, how do I fight this monster? What do I do when it ambushes? And then, you know, I looked it up online, and sure enough, there's just a move I didn't know about called the Superman dive, where you have to be facing away from the monster, running sheathed, and then you dodge. And then that lets you remain completely invulnerable as you jump to the ground. And I had to learn how to use it because I had never seen it before. Because there's a lot of mobility in this game, and I just never had anything that I couldn't just dodge by smart positioning, fast movement, quick thinking, planning / preparation. Like, this is the first time that a move forced me to actually know that. Because everything else, I was just like, that sucks that I got hit by that. I should really not stand here, or I should move around there more, or I should really keep an eye out for it. And then the moment I see it, just like wire bug the fuck out of there, and then I'm like in a different zone. And Valstrax taught me a very valuable lesson, because now I know what the Superman dive is, and that is super important, actually. And I'm surprised that, because I was just brute forcing it. Like the Superman dive would have been useful previously, trust me. I just didn't know it existed. So I was like, oh god, do I really have to like just play it super safe whenever they're about to do like their big finishing move or whatever, and like you have really good positioning? But no, you can actually just cheese it. You can just use the Superman dive. But this is a really fun fight. A jet dragon is super cool. The idea of like, instead of spitting fire out its face, it spits fire out its wings, and it uses that like jet engines. Super cool. I think Valstrax probably... So Crimson Glow Valstrax, I think, might also be a 10 out of 10. It's a very, very cool monster. It's a very, very fun fight. Like I said, it taught me a very valuable lesson about Monster Hunter in general, not just how to fight it, but how to be better at fighting every single other type of monster as well. So I think I'm happy giving Crimson Glow Valstrax a 10. Handing out a lot of 10s, but I mean, think about the quality of the ones I'm giving 10. Guys Magorm, I think, is really cool. So like as a concept, when we go from like, oh no, so there's monsters, there's the ghouls, the vampires, the werewolves, and then going from that to it's a demon or the devil itself, it actually feels a lot more natural than I thought it would. It being like a giant mole monster also made sense, because it's like, oh, okay, so it's like it just lives underground forever, and then it's like the visual of it crawling up from hell it's like, oh, it's just a real monster. It's just an animal that people have given this superstition to because it brings like catastrophe in its wake, which is like really cool. The fight itself is, I don't want to say boring, but slow. It's forcibly slow. It's makes you sit down, and it makes you slow down your pace and fight at its speed, which is kind of a good thing. So I also really love its mouth, because honestly, all of our like spectacle fights in this one had like really cool mouths. They had like that predator mouth or whatever, or the like the split bottom jaw mouth, and like look kind of working. Makes it feel otherworldly. I think Osmogorm is also probably a 9, kind of like Narwa the Allmother. I think it's pretty much a 9. It doesn't do anything that I think pushes it over the edge. It's a slow, methodical fight, but I don't think it's a terribly interesting one. The Apexes. The Apex is a really cool idea that got executed in a good but not great way, I feel. So it's sort of like a per Apex basis. Like Apex Arzuros, an idea is cool. In practice, the way that they were like, how do we make Arzuros harder? Give it new moves? Make it faster? Do something else interesting? No. They just made it hit harder, and they made it like instantly stun you at all points in time. And like that's just annoying. I'm gonna give Apex Arzuros like a 3. It's just super fucking annoying. It's not cool. Apex Rathian. It's cooler than Rathian, I think, but not by a crazy amount. It's not as cool as like Gold Rathian. Like that improvement is like a real glow up. This is like a good glow up. I do like though that it's like a more poison focused, because the Gold Rathian sort of went more into like, oh, I'm a dragon, I'm fire. But the Apex Rathian went more into the like, I'm actually a poisonous creature. I will kill you. I have poison and venom, and you will die. And I appreciate that. So I'd give Apex Rathian like a 7. Apex Mizutsune is kind of just another Mizutsune. It's 10. It's a 10 out of 10 just because Mizutsune is so good already. And like, it is just Mizutsune plus. It doesn't feel like really that much of a different monster per se, as much as it feels like, yeah, just Mizutsune plus, where it's like, oh, it's Mizutsune with like a couple of little extra things. It doesn't really feel distinct enough to be sort of its own thing. But like, I think it's still great. When you're just Mizutsune plus, I mean, hey, that's a pretty good score. Apex Rathalos. So Apex Rathalos does not fix the problems I had with Rathalos. If anything, they exacerbated them, because I feel like Apex Rathalos flies around more than normal Rathalos does. But not in like the way that like Silver does, that like to make it worth it, you know? I don't know, I think Apex Rathalos still kind of bad. We'll go with like a 4. 5. Yeah, we'll just keep it the same score as normal Rathalos. I don't think it's that much better one way or the other. I think it's 5. Apex Diablos, that's a 10 out of 10. I mean, Diablos was already great, and then now it's just Diablos, but with an incredibly interesting fight. Fighting a Apex Diablos is really, really cool. It's got like this, like corkscrews when it digs. It's got like this explosion that it does. Like there's Apex Diablos is awesome. If Diablos was not a 10, Apex Diablos would still be 10. Like, straight up. It's just Diablos, but a much cooler fight. Apex is an ogre, so this is kind of also just Zinogre, but cooler. So Zinogre was already teetering on the edge of 9 and 10. I think Apex Zinogre has that little X factor that pushes it over the edge. Because Apex Zinogre, all the Apexes that like aren't Arceros have a much more interesting fight. So when you're fighting an Apex Zinogre, it's a lot more intense. You are focused, like you are honed in on fighting this thing, because you have to be. Because like a moment spared anywhere else, and it's over. You die. This thing will kill you. And it's really good. So I think that X factor of like the better fight, like a really, really good fight, pushes Apex Zinogre over the 9 into 10. I think Apex Zinogre is a 10. Oh, is that all? That's all of them. That's all the ones we have so far. That's that. So, let me go back through to double check what all 10s we got. So, I think the first 10... Because I'm not sure. I think we may have done too many. So, Lucent is a 10. Mizutsune is a 10. Violet Mizutsune is a 10. Rathalos is the Almudron. Zinogre was a 9. Espinos is a 10. Flaming Espinos is a 10. Gormagala and Chaotic Gormagala were close. Seregios was a 10. Diablos is a 10 out of obligation. Well, I can kind of rescind the Diablos a bit. So, thinking about it truthfully, while it is kind of a perfect monster and like the quintessential monster of what you would think for Monster Hunter, I don't think it's perfect. So I can absolutely rescind this from 10 to 9, put it on the same level as like Zinogre, where it's like close, but like it could be better, if that makes sense. So we can rescind that one. That one, we'll make Diablos a 9 out of 10. And then these are all just kind of normal. Chameleos, Risen. Malzeno was another 10 out of 10. Shigaru was a 10 out of 10. Rajang was a 10 out of 10. Seething Basil Geese, I think I gave a 10 out of 10. The Spectacle Fights, I did not give any of them a 10 out of 10. Because honestly, a lot of them, they just lacked a lot of replayability that like the normal base monsters didn't have. And then Valstrax, I think I gave that a 10 out of 10 as well. So that's 12 of the monsters in the game are 10 out of 10. Oh, wait, sorry. There's still others. Apex Mizutsune was a 10 out of 10. Apex Diablos and Apex Zinogre were 10 out of 10. So that's 15 10 out of 10 monsters. But technically, several of those are subspecies or variants. So if I was to cut those out, so Zinogre and Diablos. So that's like 1, 2, so it's really more like 10. Roughly 10 or so 10 out of 10s out of all of these, which there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, nice. Of course, it's Apex Rathian at 69. 70, 71, 72, 73. So out of 73 monsters, about 15 of them have perfect scores from me, just because they're phenomenal. Sounds reasonable enough to me. I'm kind of curious. Maybe I'll edit this together to see what it all looks like side by side. just because I think it'd probably be interesting to see which ones rank above others. 'Cause, for example, I know Great Azuchi actually beat out quite a few that a lot of people probably wouldn't let it beat out, but it's how I feel. What can I say? But that's pretty much going to be it then. So, because this is pretty much all I had planned for today. I just wanted to chat, talk, get my feelings out, and then just talk about them, because I wanted to get all this down before I play Monster Hunter World, and my opinions change. Oh, change at my own size. Because my opinions will probably change. I might think less of a monster or more of a monster. There's going to be new monsters added that might change my perspective. But as it stands right now, I think I'm confident in saying that, like, this is how I feel. Most of the monsters are still generally positive, are either 5 or higher. There's only a few that are kind of on that lower end of, like, you're fine. And then it's, again, really only Tigrex that I genuinely have a problem with. Every other monster, I think, has its place, regardless of what my personal feelings on it. Tigrex is the only one that I'm 100% against. So with that, I suppose that'll be it for our show today. Thank you everyone for joining in, saying hello, and I will catch you on the next one.